Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. I'm your host, DJ Ambush. Welcome to another episode of A Podcast Has No Name. This is the first year that we are partnering with the Cascade Festival of African Films. First year of many. Really, really looking forward to this mini series that we're doing where we'll have the opportunity to sit down and have conversations with some of the directors and some of the other writers and people involved with the film festival. But yeah, this is 2026. Really, really happy. Make sure you get the opportunity to go check out the festival. It is happening this year from February 6th to March 7th. Um, the way it's described is Africa through African lenses, and that's beautiful. So here it is, April 24th, 2002. You're back home in Uganda. And please correct me of any pronunciations I've gotten wrong. This is in Mbirizi?
Mbirizi, yes.
Mbirizi. Okay. All right. Your car breaks down. You're waiting for repairs. You come across a photographer, their shop. This gentleman's name is Kabate
Chibate. Chibate.
Chibate
Aloysius
Chibate. Okay,
Salongo.
so long ago. Okay, and please, Ntare, tell me when you first walked into this shop, what were you thinking? Give me a little bit actually about the whole breakdown. Your car breaks down. Is this something that you saw coming and you're like, I meant to change this spark plug and it caught me at a bad time. How did this all play out?
No, I don't think I knew that the car was going to break down. It was a complete surprise.
Okay.
And this is one of those towns, sort of a drive-through town. You never really have a reason to stop in that town. It's like you're just
Okay.
going from Mbarara to Kampala. It's just one of those small towns I passed it a million times, had never stopped there before.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
so it wasn't an unfamiliar like route. It was just something you'd overlooked.
Right.
And it took a car breaking down for me to take a moment to actually take in the surroundings of this town. And that's when I, by chance, saw this sign, this photography and framing studio. Um, I was like, oh, wow. And I had my cameras with me. I walked in. I was like, I could see these boxes of Ilford photo paper, like stacks of them. And
Mm,
you can smell old negatives. There's a distinct smell for that. And
mm.
just felt like I'd walked into a portal of back in time. And Chibate happened to be there, greeted me with open arms, and we became fast friends. And I was just shocked that he had 5 decades of work that he had been sitting
Wow.
on and never shared publicly. Um, never thought of doing an exhibit. He just was a photographer who took his pictures for his clients and gave them the print and kept the negatives and never thought more of that. So I felt compelled to try to get his incredible work out as wide as possible. And that's what this film is partly about, that story, the journey of sharing his work.
Mm. Was he surprised at your reaction to the overwhelming amount of work that he had? I mean, it's just him just doing this day to day
Yeah.
for
I think this is
five
like this,
decades.
yeah, this is like just my regular day-to-day thing. Why are you tripping? I was like,
Right.
because you've been at it for 50 years with incredible detail and care. And that's how sort of unassuming he was. He didn't, have airs about him. He was very unassuming. You'd never guess when you'd meet him that this guy had been logging and documenting and carefully preserving a unique window into Uganda's history.
Mm, mm. So you met him in 2002. He ended up passing in 2006. Can you talk to me a little bit about the work that happened within that 4 year period
Yeah.
and then what it was like transitioning into continuing that work after his passing?
Yeah. When I met him, I had a good fortune to like see him, I think 6 times within that 4 year period and would record our meetings together just because I thought he was sitting on so much history and knowledge, and I just felt it was important to just have some sort of record of our conversations, not thinking that it was going to be a documentary, but just I love just documenting things.
Yeah.
And so that's what that was. And in that time, we talked about doing a book. We talked about doing exhibits. And I did have some work of his exhibited in London when I was doing a play there. Um, but I never really got to fulfill my promise to him of like getting his work out wide. Um, and part of that was that he had thousands upon tens of thousands upon tens of thousands of negatives, and I had not anticipated
Wow.
the cost of digitizing those. Um, and I
Okay.
also didn't know that it was a race against time. If I knew he was going to pass in 4 years of me meeting him, maybe that would have jumped things into gear, higher gear. But I didn't know that he was not going to be around for that much longer. And when he passed, I just realized how fortunate I was to have had the time I had with him, to have had a record of that time, and to use that as a tool, as a means to share his story far and wide. And that's story will what be will be premiering it at in Portland soon.
So, where were you in your career at that moment? Like you said, when the car broke down and you came across this amazing artist and his collection of photography, it's not like you were out scouting for the next project. Like, so this is something that I assume took, created a sense of urgency in that moment. But where were you within your career? What did you already have going on?
Um, that was I had just written a play, a
Okay.
solo performance play called Biro, Biro, and I was getting to premiere it. I was about to premiere it at the National Theatre in Uganda in January of 2003.
Okay.
And it was a multimedia solo performance play based on a true story of a relative of mine who was HIV positive and living illegally in the US, being given experimental drugs,
Mm,
you know, on different trial programs, because that's back in the day when HIV/AIDS was a death sentence.
yeah.
So I wrote a play about his story, his life, and it was a multimedia piece. And uh, because it was based on a true story of a relative of mine, I couldn't use real life photos and of my family. So I used some of Chibate's photos in the production. And that was our first sort of collaboration. And that play ended up going around the world, uh, performed at the African Union Summit in front of a dozen African heads of state,
Wow.
in New York and London, Uganda. I mean, all over for 4 years, I was on the road with it. And those are the 4 years that right after I met him, 2004, 2006, and then he passed. So,
Mm,
um, yeah, I was back in my theater days. You know?
okay. And then you released a documentary in 2004, right? Beware of Time,
Yes.
describing the lives of HIV positive Ugandans.
Hmm.
Where was the overlap?
Yeah, during those visits when I was working on the doc is when I would stop by and meet Shabbat. Anytime I passed by his studio, I was always checking in on him, saying hello, bringing him photo supplies, bringing him sleeves for his negatives.
Mm,
Um, yeah, we just became buddies, really. And uh, I, whatever I could do to help or be of support, I tried. But I didn't realize the burden of trying to preserve and document
yeah.
ten thousands of negatives. So
Yeah.
yeah, when he passed, it was like it was um it was a shock, not just to me, but to the entire family, the whole community, because he was such a major fixture in the region, really. Um, and so that for me was the impetus. Like I in the film, I say I was haunted by his voice. I don't know if you've
Mm,
ever made a promise to someone who's passed away.
mm.
Uh,
I
it
haven't.
stuck with me, and I felt like I had to 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 respond, and this was my response is this film.
Yeah. Wow. You mentioned a race against time a little bit earlier, definitely in reference to Jabate's life. But with the amount of photos that you had there and the condition in which he was storing them, there was also a race against time dealing with the
Yeah.
degradation of the materials, of the photos themselves. Uh, how did you manage that? What decisions were made on what photos you were going to work with first?
Yeah.
What was going to be done with the photos that you weren't going to work with? What is the current condition of the collection?
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that question. That was a tough process in terms of trying to disseminate what to work with. There were some images, the negatives were so damaged, there was nothing really to repair or restore. Um, but in their aging process, they became another form of art.
Mm,
You see the stamp of time on the negative where um, images have been eroded uh, uh, or just fallen apart, and it's a new image in itself
right.
because you see the decay that's happened to the negative. And those are really fascinating for me because there's a lot of mystery in them. There's literally the physical presence of age on them. It's like wrinkled skin. It's not
Mm,
pristine negative. There's like the wrinkled skin of time on these negatives. Um, but I really just started by picking about 300 of my images that I was just, I guess, most curious about.
okay.
And I went back to his hometown um, and brought those 300 negatives on, or 300 images, but just on a contact sheet, like a four by, medium format
Hmm.
contact sheets. And met with Shabate's wife, one of his wives, the one who lives at the studio, and said, "Do you know who these people are? Can we try to find them? I'd like to rephotograph them in their present day and ask them about the photographs, if they still have them. What can they tell me about Shabate?" And that was the beginning of the sort of in earnest effort to carry on and keep the promise and make this into a film.
Let's talk about the process. Let's talk about the process of securing those photos. You mentioned there being an issue with repairing some of them. I am unfamiliar with what that would even look like trying to repair a photo. Like, what is that? How does that work?
Well, I got them all digitized, really.
Okay.
And so digitizing them, you get to work on them digitally and manipulate the images and clean up some of the dirt and, um, try to preserve and restore the work by having it in a digital format.
Okay.
Uh, so that's what that process really was really about. And it gave me a chance because it was a negative. It was hard to get a sense of what the actual image was because you're looking at a negative, but to see it in the positive form uh, was uh, was like flipping on a light switch, when you can barely see in the dark and you flip on the light switch and you can see things in detail that you had never seen before.
What would be some key takeaways that you want to make sure people uh, leave the screening with?
Um, well, it's hard for me to tell people what they should. I would just say, please just come to the film. And once you've seen it, let me know what you think. You can reach out to me on social media, on Instagram at Beware of Time. And the folks who come to see the film are foot soldiers on the marketing team. So if you see it and you
Yeah.
like it, tell somebody about it. If you know somebody who has a gallery, tell them about it. If you know somebody who's in publishing, tell them about it and say, this is something you should be attuned to. Um, but I think one of the things that really it's a reminder of how fleeting certain things are in our life, certain moments that we choose to document, certain moments of love, uh, how fleeting those are in our lives, and the importance of trying to treasure and preserve those, and not just preserve, but to share them. Um, so I think that's one of the big takeaways from folks is that um, it's it's a moment to reflect and reconnect with moments of love from one's past, and also to find a way to share those and preserve them.
Wow, that was really poignant, especially the sharing part. I think so many of us are so used to gathering and documenting and not even thinking about what we're doing as documenting, right? We
Yeah.
want to make sure we capture that moment, whether it's a concert, whether it's a birthday party, we want to make sure we capture it. And
Mhm.
if there isn't a trend or theme designated through social media, we usually don't have the lens or the avenue in which to share it. Is it Throwback
Yeah.
Thursday? Oh, it's not Thursday, so I can't post it yet. Things of that nature. So
Yeah.
having accumulated so much of our history, creating a practice around sharing it, I think is really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Wow.
Mhm.
Mm.